You know, this is stuff that I've really been doing a lot of contemplating on. And as crazy as it sounds, I think there's actually probably really truth to this. I really do. I've often thought about this for a long time, and even when Kevin and I talk, we agree upon a lot of stuff. And this is one of the areas we definitely agree on. Okay, what's one of the best ways to hide something you don't want the public knowing? You don't never talk about it. When it is talked about or brought up, you demonize it, you call it nuts, you say it's not so. You use every way you can to demonize it, and it's not brought to the public's attention. You use words like conspiracy theories or science fiction or fantasy and blah, blah, blah. And so you notice, YouTube's been on this journey, Google has. When people talk about certain things, YouTube comes along and places a Wikipedia definition to the lie. That's what this is. To the lie. Why would they do that? It's the same thing as when we do devil's advocate. If we have to have a devil's advocate on a television show, a talk show, or a radio show, and you got the person who comes along and plays the devil's advocate, the reason that people like devil's advocate is because it smears the truth. It keeps people from finding the truth. It keeps people in a state of confusion. So if somebody's to tell the truth and you bring a devil's advocate on, and this person who's telling the truth, the devil's advocate's job is to deny what the truth is and to give some propaganda, BS, to the truth, flip it, manipulate it, spin it. That's right. So that at the end of the radio show or the end of the talk show, the real truth becomes smeared. You walk away confused. You walk away arguing with each other about who told the truth when the truth was actually told to you. And the devil's advocate's job was to do exactly that, destroy the truth. Okay? And then when you get something like this with David Icke, where he did this interview that I've started watching, it's probably going to take me the rest of the day to watch this damn thing with interference and whatever I'm doing today. But this is 6.5 hours long. Okay? And I'm just a little over an hour into it. But some very valuable stuff has been said, The Roswell event, the alien interview, I've always felt that that was probably true, really took place. Not a lie, not fiction, not BS. Now you get people like Jerry that'll say, oh no, this is when the first alien picture was drawn, and go back to the first year that it was put in his face that he can find, and he'll link it to MK Ultra, and he'll say it's completely nuts, and he'll say it don't exist, okay? But yet it don't matter what he says. He has no concrete evidence proving anything that's coming out of his mouth. Okay? He can't prove it don't exist. He can't prove it does exist. He can't prove anything because he has no proof. His proof is his opinion, okay? But what if it's true that his opinion is going along with mainstream narrative and the elite and would keep this covered up? Exactly. That's what his opinion would do. His opinion would go along with what they most likely have already done for as long as we've been around and kept it covered up. Keeping it covered up. Keeping it from being known. Keeping it covered up. That's right. By simply demonizing those who would talk about it. And then there would be a reason that Google, YouTube, that's who owns YouTube now, would be doing this. Because this guy would be telling you the real truth. But they want to smear this by providing this. So Google comes along and they place this underneath this video. He didn't place this here. David Icke didn't place this here. This is from David Icke right here, where he interviewed this guy. It's 6 hours long. The Reptillian Agenda. Okay? But David Icke didn't place this here. YouTube did. Google did. You can't remove it. So not to take the video down, but we placed this here, which is a form of, well, the devil's advocate. Because this guy most likely told you the real truth, but they put the Wikipedia definition in here, which is, okay, fantasy, science fiction. That's right. Humanoids with, okay. So they tell you what happens here is he tells you the truth. They don't want the public to take this as the truth. So they put this here because they couldn't be part of the interview of the devil's advocate, because they didn't have a devil's advocate in here to smear what this guy was saying. So the next best step was to place this underneath the video, so anybody that watched it might click on this and disregard this video. This guy's nuts, this guy's crazy, and what does that do? That keeps it hidden. That's what that does. Okay? And then we jump over here. Here we are again. Okay, Phil Snyder, Underground Alien Bases, full version. Well, let me tell you something. We already know that we have underground bases. That has been proven factually. We have underground bases all over the world that have been created by man. And if you don't believe there's any such thing as an underground base, why don't you check out the military-industrial complex? The military has all kinds of underground bases. Why don't you check out Denver International Airport? There's a reason it took so long. Because they put an underground base underneath that airport. Okay? So, but here you go. This guy here most likely came up and told you truth as well. But what did we do? See, we didn't have a devil's advocate when he was speaking. So we gave you this. That's right, we gave you the official lie. We use Wikipedia to write what they want you to believe, because we don't want you to know the real truth. We got to keep this covered up, because there would be no other reason that Google would go out of the way to place this under this guy's video. If this guy was completely full of shit and they knew it, this wouldn't even be here. But if the guy's not completely full of shit and they know he's not, and he's telling truth and things they don't want you to know, they couldn't put a devil's advocate in there, could they? No. So they put this here. That's the reason I'm showing you these two things, okay? And now I got something else I'm going to show you. I'm going to play this for you. I do believe that there's a real high chance this is probably very accurate. Okay? Of course, I cannot concretely back this up, but I'm going to give my opinion. Okay, like when I said about Jerry, he can't back up his opinion, but his opinion would allow the agenda to go on and keep truth covered up. Okay? My opinion's open, and I'm not going to say that Jerry was wrong, but I wouldn't go as far as Jerry. Because, see, Jerry, on the other hand, would say, no, this is CIA, this is first alien picture come out in this year, blah, blah, blah. It's MK Ultra. There is no such thing. And I've always said this. Just here on the earth that we live on, we have animals. We have insects that are not human, and there are other life forms. We have a whole galaxy out there, and I'm not going to listen to any flat earther because they're flatheads. Okay? They have no thinking skills. They've fallen down the road of a psyop, and the people at the top are just laughing their butts off at them, okay? Because they're literally, unfortunately, don't have no critical thinking skills. You think about the flat earther experience. Out of nowhere, hundreds and hundreds of videos, and I mean really professionally done videos, suddenly are put up on YouTube that were never there before. And you people just go one after the other and say, oh, and you fall for it. Hook, line, and sinker, a fish on a line. You know, I've been on YouTube since like 2006, 2007 area. And the flat earther didn't exist, and there was no such thing as flat earther. There was not one video on it at all for a long time. And then when it came out, there was hundreds of them everywhere just out of nowhere. Absolutely out of nowhere. It ain't like one showed up, a person gave an opinion like when I did TFL. And then somebody else joined and made another, and it slowly built up. No. These things showed up like overnight. Wham! Which, that's just more confirmation it's phony, it's fake, it's complete fraudulent. That means they spent a whole bunch of time in Hollywood producing these videos and archiving them, and when they got enough done, they picked a date and they said, okay, we'll upload, and then in the middle of the night, they freaking Google come in and they put all this shit up. And wham, within a couple of days, you had hundreds of videos on Flat Earth. And then here comes the Google people from all over the world. Oh, look at this. And they start checking and watching, and they fall right down the rabbit hole. So I won't go there with you, okay? But I'm going to say this. We have lots of planets. We have a galaxy full of planets. We already have other life forms on the Earth, not just human beings. We have, and even with the human beings, we have Asian people. We have African people. We have white people. We have different tongues. Yeah. We have different breeds of animals. We have different breeds of insects. We have life in the ocean. So to say that there's no such thing as another life form would be complete insanity. What if there was a reptilian race here before the humans was here on this planet? You go, so, but the Bible, throw that Bible in the garbage. The story in the Bible is filled full of holes. I'm not saying we don't have a creator, and I'm not saying we don't have life after death, because I do believe there is a creator. And I do believe there is other dimensions, and there is life after death. I even believe there probably is reincarnation. Okay, and that's my right to have that belief system, right? So, and I'm not taking yours away from you. But don't use the Bible as an excuse of why this is not so. Because if you want to go there, then I'm going to tell you this straight up. In your so-called Bible, Quran, whatever you're reading out of, the stories all pretty much match. So, if the Lord or God in your Bible or whatever you want to call him, in your Quran, your Bible, whatever religion you are, tells you that there was animal was made after the earth and one human was put on the earth and we took the rib from that human, created the female, okay, then you have to ask yourself, if there was a black Adam and a black Eve, where did I come from? Where did the Asians come from? If it was an Asian Adam and an Asian Eve, where did we come from? It's common sense. Then let's go with the story of Jesus being crucified. And he was our Creator's son, our Creator's child. And our Creator, who created us, the human beings and the animals, we would kill our Creator's child, crucify them and put them on a cross and kill them. Well, if we would kill our very own Creator's child, what the hell makes you think we wouldn't change our Creator's words? What are you, nuts? What are you, out of your minds? If we would actually kill our own Creator's child, we sure to heck would change our Creator's words to our own wants. You're dang right we would, and if you deny that, you're just a nutcase. That's how I feel. So anyhow, let's go back to what I'm talking about here. This is what the more I dig, the more I see, the more awakened I become, the more I realize how bad we've been lied to for so long. And the more I realize our technologies, a lot of them probably came from other life forms. And I think there's a really, really super good chance that at the top of that pyramid, the people that are really pulling the strings and running this world, this planet, are not like me and you. They're not psychopaths. Well, we have psychopaths all the way up the pyramid, right? But at the very top, that very small little group, I think there's a good chance they could very well be aliens or being controlled by another life form. I really do. And why would that happen? Well, because what if that life form is killable and there's billions and millions and millions of us people with weapons that could kill them, and there's not as many of them as there is us by a long shot, but they say they have smarter intelligence than us. They have better weaponry or whatever of us. They have powers that we cannot conceive. It wouldn't be hard for them to scare the bejeevers out of and run and put themselves in a godlike position, now would it? But then we would be able to take them out, right? But not if they're hidden. That's right. Not if they're controlling a very few. So my opinion at this point in time, from my life experiences, from what happened in Nebraska with my deceased brother, to the house I grew up in, to the country club, to the different things that's happened to me, and then the research that I've done for all the years I have of being aware of what's going on around me, I'm going to agree with Kevin on this one. I think the Roswell event, the alien interview, was quite real. It was not fiction. It was not a lie. It was not a psyop. It was not BS. Okay? I think these people told you the truth. This is why this is here. Because we had no way of shoving a devil's advocate in there. That's right. Had no way of shoving a devil's advocate in here. So we did the best thing. Ain't that right, Google? So I think they told you the truth. And now I've put this together. I want you to watch this. So it's going to be a lengthy video. Watch this. And then we will go from there. But I'm not going to say no more. You're going to have to draw your own conclusions. But this is the area I lean in. This is where I think we're headed. And I think the agenda of the NWO came from an outside source. Okay? And it's their form of a world they want, as if David Icke would have told you a world like Hunger Games. Yeah. I think this is an outside force is doing of creating a world that they can control. And I don't think it's being human done. I think humans are being run by an outside force. Okay, I really do. I even agree with David Icke's solution, because his solution to beating this is the same thing I've said for a long time now, and I laughed when I heard him say it, because it's the same thing I've been saying for so long. That'll be a different video. But watch out.
In our obsession with antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is just the beginning.
Wealthy. They are very powerful. But there's a game afoot here. What do they want?
First of all, it's not a secret. We know who they are. It's Christine Lagarde, her first head of the IMF, her first deputy managing director, David Lipton, professors like Larry Summers and Ken Rogoff at Harvard, Republican intellectuals here in the UK, Adair Turner, Anatol Koletsky, Mario Draghi, head of the European Central Bank. So it's a collection of central bankers, finance ministers, academics, think tankers, and public intellectuals, and several hundred of them around the world who collectively run the international monetary system because they either run the central banks or the multilateral institutions, or they're in and out of finance ministries, or they have a lot of influence. So that's who they are.
They influence 90% of what happens.
Or more. Exactly.
Okay. So there's no secret that it's some other guy.
We know who they are.
Focused on. What are the big things that you see as, okay, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening?
What I'm seeing is more and more people beginning to question what they've not questioned before. That is incredibly encouraging. And I've just finished a world speaking tour over the last 18 months. I've been all over the world. It's happening everywhere. Without realizing that's what they're doing. It's a tiny, tiny number. So given the mathematics, you can't physically control your target population. There's not enough of you. Yes, you can do it through people in uniform, which is manipulating the target population to police the target population, but you can't do it en masse. What you need to do is control the perceptions of the population, because perception is everything. Perception dictates what you believe, what you don't believe, what you'll challenge, what you won't challenge, what you'll accept, you won't accept, support, won't accept, support, everything. Once they've got your perceptions, they've got you, and they've got your life, and they've got the collective perception. They have humanity. This is why they want to control the information that people receive and to marginalize alternative ways of looking at the world, because where do perceptions come from? They come from information received. When I look at the world, I see vast numbers of people who are perceptually programmed. When you look at a human life, it's basically a perceptual programming and download from cradle to grave. You know, you come out of the womb and immediately you're influenced by your parents in terms of your perceptions. And they're not being malevolent, most of the time anyway, the vast majority, but they've been through the system you're about to go through, the process you're about to go through. They've bought it, accepted it as normal, accepted the crazy place to be sane, and therefore, out of wanting to do right for you, they'll pass those perceptions on to you. Take a deep breath, take a step back, look at it again. When you think about it, you come out of the womb, and within 4 years, you've only just got here. You're sitting at a desk with an authority figure representing the state's version of everything in front of you, telling you when you have to be there, when you can leave, when you can speak, when you can go to the toilet, when you can eat, what is, what isn't, what's possible, what's not possible, and the nature of everything. We're seeing the Silicon Valley giants in the devil's playground, more and more algorithmically controlling the flow of information, using hoaxes like fake news. This plan has been around a long time. They have manipulated human perception by manipulating the information people receive. The plan is to go beyond that, where they are the perception. And what I'm talking about, of course, is artificial intelligence, which brings us back to the devil's playground, Silicon Valley. because that is increasingly the center. In the shadows is where it's coming from, but in terms of the world that you can see, Silicon Valley is becoming the center of global control. People will be shocked to see how deep Google, oh, it's just a search engine, and Facebook, oh, it's just a social media platform. To see how deep they are in the transhumanist agenda of connecting the human brain to artificial intelligence, so that artificial intelligence becomes the human mind. And that's not me pulling this out of the ether. I'm quoting there a Google executive, Ray Kurzweil, one of the global PR men for Frankenstein.
Is he a Google exec? I know he's at Singularity University.
He's a Google exec at the Singularity University. Okay. And he has said that by 2030, and that's a date, a year that keeps coming up again and again, 2030, the human brain will be started to be connected to artificial intelligence. And I'm quoting Kurzweil here. And then artificial intelligence will do more and more of human thinking until there is no human thought and artificial intelligence is doing it all. Now, why are they openly saying this? Because the sales pitch is it will make us superhuman. Because, especially the young, or will be the adults then, addicted to technology, is all about the here, kitty, 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 preparing people to accept this.
Did the Illuminati, I don't know what we call them, did they see the Devil's Playground coming? Or is the technology a bump in their plans?
Oh, they created it.
Here we go. If you haven't heard this before, you're going to take a deep breath.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk about reptilian shapeshifters.
What most people will do because of this perceptual download, this post-stamp consensus, they'll say, load of rubbish, basically doing that. According to mainstream science, the electromagnetic spectrum is 0.005% of what exists in the universe. Some say it's a bit more, but not much. Visible light, which is the only frequency band that we can see, is a fraction, a tiny fraction, of the 0.005%. So humans, compared with what exists even in this universe, are basically blind. We don't live in a world, we live in a band of frequency. And then you look at that, people laugh at the fact that this world could be manipulated by a non-human force when they can see a tiny fraction of 0.005% on a planet equivalent to a billionth size of a pinhead. The key to keeping people in perceptual servitude is to suppress the nature of reality itself. Because if people realize what I've just said, they are far more likely to say, well, hold on a minute then. If we can't see almost anything, then what else exists? Well, hold on a second. Look at the diversity of form in the human form, never mind the animal world and the insect world, that's operating within that tiny band of frequency. What the heck exists in terms of diversity of form beyond that, which is in the almost entirety of existence that we can't see? And when you come from that perspective, then non-human entities, that many taking a reptilian form, becomes far less fantastic. I've not sat in a darkened room pulling this out of the ether. I've researched all over the world. First of all, these entities operate in the unseen, overwhelmingly in the unseen. Because we, like I said earlier, live in a frequency band, a band of frequency. Anything beyond that frequency we can't see, we're not aware of. And, you know, people have no trouble accepting that the old analog system of radio and television stations are different frequencies sharing the same space without interfering with each other unless they're really close on the dial. The analog system, BBC One and ITV and CNN, they're sharing the same space, but they're just on different frequencies, and the television picks up different frequencies as you change the channel. Well, in the same way, worlds, or realities, it's a better term, are sharing the same space without interfering with each other unless they're very close on the dial. And so these, not just reptilian, but other non-human entities, are operating just outside of the human sight. And they have to have vehicles within our frequency band, within our world, that represent their interests, that are basically vehicles for them to manipulate our society. And so particular bloodlines were created that are hybrids, part reptilian, not always reptilian, but part reptilian, part human, which is the origin of the royal aristocratic bloodline, whole order of the ages. You know, the ancient Chinese emperors used to claim the right to be emperor because of their descendants from the serpent gods. And the reason that these royal bloodlines and aristocratic bloodlines have incessantly, obsessively interbred is because they're holding this hybrid genetic program. And for a long time, they ruled because they were the special bloodline. What is it? Just down the road from us now in London, we have a head of state, even today, who is head of state because of her bloodline.
The Queen.
The Queen. If she was a different bloodline, she might be cleaning the throne, not sitting on it. This is the nonsense of it. But why are you Queen? Because someone had sex with someone and that person was born first, therefore they're the monarch. Sorry, I thought we lived in a civilized society with some form of intelligence. What's going on?
What? You got your money. And you promised me my family would be unharmed if I cooperated. Is there something you need to tell me?
Carl, are you here?
Something happened, but it's under control.
Are my family safe?
They're fine.
And your people?
It's under control.
I'm not sure Neville would agree with you.
How did you know?
I must confess, I recognized his stench as soon as he entered my home.
What are you talking about?
You think you are the hunters and we are the prey? No. No. You are the poor, weak, soft, defenseless prey, and we are the hunters. The top of the pyramid. The top of the food chain. Rick. I'm relieved to see you're okay. You were unconscious and I got a bit bored waiting for you to wake up, so I thought I'd pop in here for a quick drink before I headed home for dinner.
What are you?
You know, that's a very fine whiskey you're not drinking.
What's in it?
Oh, please. If I wanted to kill you, I wouldn't poison you. It spoils the meat. That's a 100-year-old Scotch. Blended especially for George V to celebrate.
I'm more of a Jemmyman myself.
Well, you're only human.
And I don't drink anymore.
So, Rick, to get back to your overly simplistic question, I am, or I should say, we are, the natural order. Tonight you stumbled upon something that few ever do. been around since the dawn of time. We existed before now. We are the true master race. Strong, fast, intelligent, perfectly adapted for any environment. If we have a flaw, it's our biological clocks. Our females only have a brief window for conception.
Fucking women, eh?
This flaw, however, is really evolution at its most balanced. Natural population control for the top of the food chain. We are the true heirs to this planet. We thrived. And we built cities like you couldn't imagine. But after a rather well-known extinction-level event, when we were at our weakest, your kind fell from the trees and multiplied like a virus. Suddenly there were more of you than there were of us. But what we lacked in numbers, we made up for in intellect. So we orchestrated our disappearance from this world and from your history. Now all that's left are fragments in your mythologies, along with the ravings of wild-eyed conspiracy theorists. Funnily enough, we do have one thing in common. Biology. Like us, you're blessed with the limbic neocortex, otherwise known as the reptile brain. It controls instinct, dominance, aggression. It's the part of you that stops you from getting killed like the overgrown lemmings that you are. But while our species evolved in harmony with these qualities, yours evolved in conflict with them, favoring irrational emotions like empathy and love. And what good did it do you? Today we rule your whole world. We control your governments, your corporations, your monarchies, your secret societies, your law enforcement, and the cornerstone of it all, your banks.
The language of the Xhosa people of the Eastern Cape is very similar to Zulu, but certain important words in the Zulu language, good words, are viewed as obscenities by the Xhosa people. For example, in the language of the Zulus, an ancestral spirit is called Idlozi. But if you use that word to a Xhosa, he says you are using a dirty word, because to them, Idlozi means sexual desire. And in the language of the Zulus, maize meal, is known as impupu. But in the language of the Bapedis, maize meal is called bupi, and if a Zulu uses the word impupu in front of a Bapedi woman, she feels that he has insulted her, because in the Bapedi language, impupu means a woman's sexual organ. And in the language of the Mashonas, in the language of the Zulus, a mother is called mama. If I say my mother, I say mama wami. But in the language of the Mashona, the people of Eastern Zimbabwe, the word mama means to sit down and have a crack. So one day when I said to my Mashona host, ngikhumbule umama, which in Zulu is, I remember my mother, I'm missing my mother. The Mashona gentleman immediately took me and directed me to his pit latrine at the back of his house. Because in the Mashona way, mother is mine, not mine. So you see this terrible difficulty, this subtle problem of language is a very big obstacle to communication in Africa. So we designed languages. There's another language called Fanagalo, which is a lingua franca consisting of African words as well as nonsense words and Zulu words, which was used a lot in the mines in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. So to bridge this great language gap, we have created artificial languages in Africa, but today English is the preferred language of communication. Some say we should learn French, also another language of communication in Africa.
Some of the problems of language can be funny, but it is the same situation, the divide and rule, that is actually, in other expressions, created this tremendous turmoil in Africa and other places in the world. And we're looking from my research, and staggeringly hearing you talk, you're saying exactly the same as I come across. It's incredible confirmation that a reptilian race from another world has been behind the manipulation of humanity for a very, very long time. Now, what do these Chitahuli actually look like, the reptiles?
I'm not a good artist.
You're better than me, that's for sure.
But this is how we believe the Chitahuli look like. They were created in this. You see, sir, you white people say that there are alien beings on this earth. No, you are wrong. The earth in which we live has produced 24 different races during its long existence. Please, this is how a Chitauri looks like. It stands about 11 feet high. It is a very slender being which seems not to have a bone structure. Its fingers have no joints. They are more as if the bones in here were flexible. Some of the Chitauri have got 3 claws with a thumb. Some have got 6 claws with a thumb. And some of the Chitauris have got horns on their heads. And what surprises me is this. Some film producers, like the producers who make the film Star Wars, often show creatures in their films which actually exist, which even the most uneducated of Africans who knows this Chitauli can identify. For example, in the new Star Wars film, what is it called? Star Wars or something like that. There is a creature who amazes me called Darth Maul. Darth Maul is a red and black being with a ring of small horns right round his head. That is exactly what the Chitawuli look like. Some have got ordinary heads without any horns on their heads. These are the lesser Chitawuli. But the royal Chitawuli have got a ring of sharp horns all around their heads. And the very high Chitawuli, like their king, Mubaba Samahongo, they have got very long horns which grow this way. Not that way like a bull, but this way like certain antelopes. Now, I just wonder, where these film producers get their information from. And in one strange film, which my student called me to come and watch, the thing called Stargate 2. And in that film, there was a creature, a very slimy, cream-colored creature with heavy wrinkles on its face. It was a spitting likeness of Mubaba Samahongo, the terrible emperor of the Chitawuli.
Well, clearly there's a tremendous amount of knowledge of what's been going on and what is going on, which comes out symbolically through films and areas of communication like Hollywood. But the thing that I'm totally stunned the more I talk to you about this is because I've been all over the world having people give me descriptions of seeing reptilian type figures, particularly people in positions of power in the world, changing into a reptilian figure and coming back again. And what they describe seeing is exactly what the knowledge of ancient Africa talks about seeing. We're talking about the same people there, which is astonishing confirmation. And the eyes is something that keeps coming up being described. Tell me about the eyes of the Chitahuli.
Say, a warrior Chitawuli has got eyes like a snake. These eyes are yellowish with split pupils, and they glow in darkness. So if a warrior Chitawuli, one of the lesser classes, is hiding in a cave, you can see its eyes burning. But a royal Chitawuli has got 3 eyes. It's got the yellow eyes, which glow in a strange, almost ice-like way, like jewels, like certain types of yellow jewel. And then they have got an eye in the center of their forehead, an eye which doesn't close up down like a normal eye does, but which closes from side to side and which opens this way. Now this eye of the Chitawuli is the eye that kills, because it can knock a man down just by the fire, the glare that comes out of it.
Is this where the constant recurring theme of the evil eye comes from?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In fact, Mubaba, the emperor of the Chitawuli, who is said to be still alive today, Mubaba has got a central eye. His other 2 eyes were stitched shut by a jealous wife. But his killing eye, the Samahongo, the terrible red eye, opens. He can even open it like this.
You're in for a treat. Phil Schneider has 17 years experience working in the government black projects. He carried a level 3 security clearance. He's a former government geologist and engineer in the black projects, underground bases at areas 51, S4, and Los Alamos. He's going to expand your mind here this morning. Please welcome Mr. Phil Schneider.
I'm Phil Schneider. I spent 17 years in black budget programs, government geologist as engineer, structural engineer with aerospace applications, self-taught metallurgist, became kind of famous in my own right. I basically would have a set of notes here, but they're unavailable in all this melee. Up here I have different artifacts explaining some of them are alien metals that have been produced both on this planet and the confines of outer space that are now used in all stealth aircraft. All stealth aircraft, for instance, all black jets, what you're seeing of black helicopters and the like, the skins and the coatings and the residues that are used predominantly in the aircraft themselves, in the airframes and the rotor blades and the fans, and in some cases in submarines, special titanium hulls, in the Phoenix class submarines now. All this has come from alien technology. 1947 is what the public has been told. Something crashed in the backyard in New Mexico, a place called Roswell, New Mexico. Unfortunately, that's what the public's been told. The military's known about the alien question for the better part of 70 years, and they first saw their glimpse of what was going on as early as 1909 in the American Southwest. Now, Army cavalry evidently were chasing some bandits, and they entered this cave. They were holed up in a cave, and what they found in there was flying discs and little gray guys and all kinds of weird things, and they didn't know how to explain that, and they wrote them down as best they could, and it's been in secret archives ever since. And it's up down by the Truth or Consequences area of New Mexico. Well, the alien thing is more than just what I'd call a non-visible threat. We on the surface, first of all information dealing with alien or alien reproduced technology or alien reproduced vehicles or any other kinds of things well hidden from the American public. Our black budget, for instance, garners $1.023 trillion every 2 years. It's over $500 billion a year. Right now, there are 131 active deep underground military bases in the United States. There's 1,477 of them worldwide. Each one has an average cost of $17 to $19 billion. Each one is built in the site. It used to be it'd take a year to 2 years to build each one, and now they're capable of building a couple of them a year with sophisticated methods. My colleague Al Bielek has actually been on some of the high-speed railways, the magneto-leviton trains that connect all the deep underground military bases within the United States. He's been on a Mach 2 train and floats off of a single rail at 3/4 of an inch off the rail, and is what you'd call high tech. We have nothing like this on the surface. The public basically has been totally lied to. We're considered stupid or even moronic in some cases. It's got to stop. If we're going to gain our country back, we must, and I repeat, must instill in our public officials, anybody that goes and does public service, they must tell us the truth. If they cannot do this, then they must be impeached, or they must be removed from office. If this cannot occur, if the truth cannot totally come out, there are reasons for secrecy, for instance, but if the truth cannot totally come out, what's the use in us having anything called freedom? Okay, now I have pictures here that I'm going to show you during the break in artifacts, and I ask you to kind of look at them but not handle them. I have actual crashed retrieval metal from Roswell, New Mexico. It's given to me when I was 14 years old. For instance, I've got other things. I've got pieces of this piece of titanium, a special titanium alloy made for everything from the original SR-71 Blackberry. It's an old hat now. F-117As, they're old hat now. They're making a whole new class of hypersonic above Mach 5 aircraft that employ extremely modern charged particle beam weapons. They don't even use lasers anymore. Computer-enhanced imaging radar, although it's used in helicopters for public surveillance, computer-enhanced imaging radar, and in satellite technology. The brand new kid on the block is a kind of infrared technology where a satellite 150,000 miles out in a geosynchronous orbit, or not quite geosynchronous orbit, but these spy satellites can literally look in and see a dime on the floor, say on your kitchen floor. They have a resolution factor of 99.999961. This particular piece of metal, I'm going to drop it on the floor here. It'll kind of ring like a bell. You can't break it. Withstand temperatures in excess of 7,500 degrees Fahrenheit. It has niobium in it. It also has mironite in it, element 123. Yeah, please do. It's in a non-crystalline form. This is just kind of a dripping out of the main crucible. Here's a crystalline example. It's in the scalenohedral crystalline form. We got this from the large grays technology. This is grown in the confines of outer space, which has not quite a super vacuum, but by the way, this is capable of withstanding temperatures in excess of 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's great for certain parts of aircraft. This kind of material I work with on a daily basis. Up here we have a transparency of Groom Lake. Groom Lake is where the infamous Area 51, S4, S2, a CIA base, it was originally a bombing range, a nuclear test site. It was later become the most secret base in the United States. It employs over 18,000 workers who work in shifts of 12 hours at a whack. Most of them work in the cover of darkness, like us. We built 9 underground military bases there, each with an average capacity capable of basically a city underground, roughly 4¼ cubic miles hollowed out underground. They have boring machines, for instance. They don't bore, they literally vitrify and melt the rock, deflagrate the rock. It's a very sophisticated laser melting and deflagrating system. It reduces the rock to a powder and then melts the remaining rock as a coating on the inside of the base, so you don't have to use gunite cements and other kinds of things like that. That's all old hat now. Technology is just basically the new technology we get is the old hat of the military. I'm going to be real brief about it. I carried a level 1 security clearance, the Rhyolite 38 factor. There are very few of us. There's nobody except myself, to my knowledge, talking like this. Nobody. I'm breaking the law. I'm breaking world as well as federal law. I'm coming out and even talking about this to a group of people. I love my country more than I love my life. 2 weeks ago, I was shot in the shoulder. I don't want to gore you women out, but I was shot in the shoulder up here. I recently have become friends of a retired FBI agent who took me under the wing. He says, I've never seen a person braver than you. And I said, well, there's more coming. Our patriot movement in these United States is going to pick up the ball, and we are going to kick the parasites out. First of all, George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, a few other founding fathers, Patrick Henry to mention a few, all had visions that these United States is going to live 700 years from where they were standing, and that was somewhere around the late 1700s, early 1800s. So you can count this country isn't going to go to a new world order. I believe firmly in constitutional law. I'm not very well skilled in it, and that's my embarrassment. But I'm going to be real blunt about it. The government that is now instilled in ruling over us are ruling as we're serfs and they're the kings and queens. Now, that's a feudal system. That isn't even a democracy. We are now being ruled by an autocracy and a technocracy. In other words, technical knowledge as rules as king, with a feudal-type system. Feudal systems haven't been used in the last 350 years, and they're coming back like gangbusters. If we are complacent, if we do not speak out in droves, and I'm not just talking about me, I'm talking about a bunch of us getting together and getting on this stump and loving our country more than we love our lives, getting on, some of us are going to get killed. I almost got killed a couple of weeks ago. Hadn't been for an FBI, a retired FBI man who risked his life, his career, everything, put it all on the line, and he didn't know me from Adam. A week prior to that, he listened to one of my tapes I gave up in Post Falls, Idaho, and I'm going to be very blunt about, he said that we need a lot more of you, but unfortunately we're not getting anybody. Well, I'm not the best speaker in the world, but I'm trying to relay to you that we need to get out and seriously get the message out. These shows are great. This hall should be absolutely packed, standing room only, and we should be getting the message out to as many people as we can with as many shows as there is it possibly to reach. The many is the public. We ought to get on talk shows. We've got to get on news shows and TV shows, and we have to really get the message out. And I think we're doing it, but it's a little bit slow in the first part. That's just that part of what I want to say. In working with the black projects, I was very loyal. I was picked because I was very strong mentally. There's a bunch of us that were picked because we don't crack under pressure. We don't freak under pressure, so to speak. Everyday events don't bother us. Now, I was involved in something very controversial, almost totally unbelievable to most of you. Some of you are religious people. I think all religions have a time and a place, and they definitely have a place in America. Now, another thing I want to reach to you is that during the unbelievable part, I was involved in building another base inside of Dulce, New Mexico, which is Los Alamos Laboratory. It's a biological laboratory. On the southwest part of the Archuleta Mesa, we built an underground facility, a better part of 3 cubic miles hollowed out underground. Then to the southwest of that, we were in the process of the early stages of building. We drilled 4 large tunnel-like holes. Some of them ran 2.5 miles under the surface. Number of the original wells or drilling machines that were used were at the rate of 2 miles a day. It was fairly rapid. The equipment kept coming up broken. So we wanted to go down and we wanted to send somebody down there, a human observer, or human observers in this case, to find out what was going on. Well, to our total surprise, first of all, the government knew all about it. They didn't tell anybody. When I saw Green Beret and Black Beret people encamped inside of our geologist camp, I knew something was up. The gig was up. First of all, I knew all about the alien agenda. I'll explain that in a few minutes. The large alien grays had been encamped there for, as best as believed possible, about 400 or 500 years. Had been one of their internal bases. And we'd drilled holes right on top of it. All the stinking air, all the black sooty air came right out as soon as the first hole was sunk, and all this soot came up, and well, that's when all the hell broke loose, really, all started. Anyway, after we drilled all 4 holes, it took about 2 days to drill all 4 of them. And when you build an underground base, you drill 4 basic holes, and then you build called stopes or cross-member holes across, and then you use blasting equipment, special blasting equipment by the analyzation of the rock formation, and you literally blast out or tunnel out or deflagrate or melt rock out to build the large rooms that are required for this underground base. Well, in this process, I was lowered down the basket of one of these holes, and about from me to this elderly woman here in the front was sitting a 7-foot-tall alien gray. The stench was worse than the worst garbage can you can imagine. The person was the entity was absolutely horrible. I didn't waste any time. I reached for my pistol. At that time, as an engineer, I didn't have time to carry all the folderol of one of these big submachine guns that all the sea spray and the yellow fruit and all the outer perimeter and inner perimeter security people carried. I carried a little Walther PPK pistol with a 9-shot clip. This was in late August of 1979. Now, you got a regular suit of clothes, you got a regular clothes on, plus you're in almost like a spacesuit environment, and you're reaching for a gun. It's not the easiest thing to do, and then to pop a clip in it and start shooting. And I killed 2 of them. Yes, they're mortal, and they do die. However, in the process, one of them did this. All I remember is that he just kind of waved his hand in front of his chest, and the next thing I know, this blue beam hit me and just literally opened me up like a fish, and burnt my fingers right off of me. And it was some form of electrical force, because the kind of like being hit by a lightning bolt burned all my toenails off of me. Completely crispy crittered my left foot, burnt the shoe right off of me. All I remember was the smoking remains, and I'm still conscious, but in and out of, I didn't remember much. And there was a Green Beret that was right behind me that risked his life. In fact, he died. But he risked his life. He shoved me back in the basket and hit the button and took me up. And I wouldn't be alive talking to you today if it wasn't for him. I'm forever indebted. He lost his life. 66 Secret Service agents, Green Berets, Black Berets, crack troops lost their lives because the government, our United States government, lied, did not tell us anything about the alien threat. There's a war underneath there, and I'm talking dead serious.